This lecture is about myocarditis. I included an illustration of an example of the process of viral replication and immune response, and then the dilated cardiomyopathy that occurs. And I like this illustration because it has days that represent as the patient is going through that acute, subacute, and chronic phase. Just take a moment to review that. Myocarditis is a pathologic process in which inflammation involving the myocardium is identified. The World Health Organization defines it as an inflammatory disease of the myocardium diagnosed by established histological, immunological, and immunochemical criteria. There's really actually no known incident of myocarditis, and there's multiple reasons for that as we look at the epidemiology of it. One thing, because there's so many causes of it, but they are doing these studies and gathering this data, post death, and it's pretty interesting as you look at the causation and why we really can't pull that information. One of the things that our author of our textbook does is wants us really to note the distinction between cardiomyopathy and myocarditis. They are not interchangeable, although myocarditis does account for one form of cardiomyopathy, actually 10% of the cases of dilated cardiomyopathy. So when you consider cardiomyopathy, you think of any situation in which the myocardium systole or diastolic function is impaired. And there's usually three categories: dilated, hypertrophic, and restrictive. The pathogenesis of myocarditis is it's a heterogeneous condition caused by a multitude of insults to the myocardium. It may be infectious, such as a virus. About 50% of HIV patients are found to have a myocarditis on postmortem exam. It could be a bacteria, a protozoa, a spirochetal, rickettsia, or a fungal cause. And toxins are known to cause myocarditis, such as alcohol, certain chemotherapeutic drugs, and drug-induced allergies, and even autoimmune diseases such as lupus. So histologically, the diagnosis is by tissue exam. So by one of the, looking at that myocardial tissue through a biopsy, and we're looking for lymphocytic or polymorphic eosinophilic implications, as well as using a correlation with other systemic and physical findings. And actually very few of those biopsies are done because of really needing the expertise to take a sample, the risk of sampling. However, it very frequently, and in most cases, the cause of the myocarditis remains undetermined. Clinical manifestations can really range from a mild fever, atypical chest pain, fatigue, palpitations with possible transient ECG changes, all the way to fatal cardiogenic shock and or arrhythmias and sudden death. And probably the most important thing to remember about that gamut of symptomology is that myocarditis can really progress quite rapidly, from subtle manifestation to death. If myocarditis progresses to a systolic dysfunction, symptoms really mimic that left ventricular hypertrophy, same symptoms. If it's right ventricular infection or inflammation, then you're going to see the things that we see with the right ventricle being ill: ankle swelling, loss of appetite, abdominal bloating. Myocarditis is most frequently identified in younger age groups, although it can occur in any age. Again, it may present subtle, so you must consider it with any patient with symptoms of possible cardiac cause. And I think we can be lured into thinking about our patients' past medical history that do have cardiac disease. We still have to include in our differential when they have an atypical presentation, that they could have myocarditis too. The physical exam usually reveals a resting tachycardia with an exaggerated response to any exertion. Mild case may have no symptoms or a low-grade fever and tachycardia. In more severe cases, the same physical findings really are as left ventricular dysfunction. You might auscultate a pericardial friction rub. The right ventricular dysfunction really implies and will pull forward elevated jugular venous pressure, hepatic enlargement, that right upper quadrant, abdominal tenderness, pedal edema, ascites, and anascaria in severe cases. But be aware that patients, one of the things Butera points out is not just being aware, but being an astute clinician. So if a patient with chronic heart failure comes and they're symptomatic, they're short of breath, they have some palpitations, they have swelling in their legs, they might not have, they're symptomatic, but their physical exam findings are few, or they're not as obvious as you think they should be. Then that astute clinician is the one that says, I've got to include myocarditis in my thought process, and particularly since it's so potentially life-threatening and it can progress so rapidly. Diagnostically, again, that biopsy of that myocardium tissue is the only definitive diagnostic test for myocarditis, but it's not used very frequently. So often we are basing on clinical presentation with other types of diagnostic testing, such as CBC with diff, some inflammatory markers, that ESR, CRP, cardiac enzymes that include troponin, some immunotherapy, look IgM to IgG, going to get an ECG, and there are some classic ECG changes that can be identified. I included those on the last slide. Echocardiograms often used, as well as a cardiac MRI. The top 3 differential diagnoses that need to be considered are acute coronary syndrome, cardiomyopathies, and pulmonary embolism. Management is pretty straightforward: immediate specialty referral for all suspected cases of myocarditis. But if you're unable to get them in, they need to go to the emergency department. Patient and family education. Myocarditis is potentially life-threatening disease, and we are responsible to educate the patient and the family about the process, the effect of this inflammation on cardiac function, and the possible complications. I had mentioned the gamut of symptomology. Well, if you come in with subtle findings and you're told you need to immediately go to the ER, they might really not correlate the serious nature of this. But I think it is our responsibility. And there's always that juggle of not scaring them to death, but also preventing death. So that takes skill and just really clinical reasoning. So this last slide, I did include a 12-lead surface ECG, and I want you to see that it is showing extensive ST segment elevation in leads 2, 3, and AVF, and those can be indicative. Those are kind of classic signs and symptomology of myocarditis. Thank you.